how was the food? Is everyone tired and want to go to bed now? Like me? So, hi. I'm sorry I'm again here to annoy you. Second time this day, you need to bear with me. We are here for our panel, Bridging IT and OT in the Manufacturing, Scaling, Security, and the Future of Industry Technology. And I promise I won't talk too much this time, so because there are 3 other people that are here to talk more than me. So we start with Alfred Schmidt from Stedforce. He's the lead software engineer there, and they have a big footprint in the manufacturing industry. Then we have Tobias Schneck, which is my colleague from Kubermatic. He is our principal architect and the person that we send usually to manufacturing customers. And last but not least, we have Johannes Mundorf, who is a software architect at Smart Factory and a researcher for the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence. So, but we hope now we talk about the real intelligence. So let's start with the general topic of the IT and the OT, which we all know, as we asked in the beginning of the morning, who's using Kubernetes in the OT department. There were not so many show of hands, so we know that there are separate teams and they sometimes talk to each other, but mostly not. So the first question would be, how can IT and OT teams collaborate, and how do they do it in their current state? And I would say, Alfred, why don't you start?
Yeah, how can they cooperate? Yeah, as we started about 4 years ago in the manufacturing era, the OT asked us how we can change to future development processes. So because we have some troubles, things are not working as we expect, and yeah, and then we said, yo, cool, we have a new job, we have someone to talk to and to find solutions. And the first thing we talked about was getting reproducible deployments, for example, because what we saw in the OT was that somebody with USB stick goes from PC to PC on the machines and does software updates like this. And we said, oh, there's a big room for optimization there, so get this automated. And then we give them some hints about containerization. Big buzzword 4 years ago in the OT world, and they had big fears in the OT development. So, oh, we have to learn many new things and so on. We have to learn new programming languages, but we only developed in .NET until now, so, and we have to learn so many things. And yeah, then we did a workshop and brought them together that it's not so complicated to write a containerized service in .NET. So that was our little way to get first things running in the OT and to get away the fear from the developers that they have too much change, because the biggest fear of the people is we are changing everything, but you don't have to change everything to get things running.
When you say that you move towards the towards the OT department directly, Johannes, maybe you can give an input on how do you currently see the interaction between IT and OT? Because I mean, they are technically 2 departments, right?
Yeah, I would maybe start even a bit earlier, like where are we coming from? It's like OT, they build the machines, they keep it running. The brownfield is like some machines are 20 years old or even longer. So it's like a long-standing organization. but nowadays we have supply chain crisis, global crisis. So there's a need for modular, flexible, and also resilient production systems. And this is something where then the ideas from Industry 4.0 come in. And this is also where the IT department maybe has a lot of knowledge in services and containers, being able to also deploy software more flexible. And now they get to talk to each other, yeah? And one of them, they have the daily task is mainly just building the machines, keeping them running. They don't want to change too much because it's also production critical. It's like a hard choice for them. But on the other hand, they also see, oh, there's so much new tech. How could we use it? Where can we start? And so I would say currently, what most of the companies do is first step just using some tools to gain some transparency, like what is happening on the shop floor. You can just read data out maybe with new software that you can deploy on top of existing systems. And this is where we are currently. But there's still a lot of potential in the future to also enable more sophisticated services.
Yeah, Toby, when you have a look at the different departments, I mean, as you said, they are starting to talk to each other, but there's the communication barriers. So where would you see like the biggest communication barriers between the IT and OT, and how could we improve, or how could companies improve the interaction between them?
Yeah, for sure. Communication is the most challenging part of it, because like if you program software in kind of application software development, you're using different tool sets. You mostly are used to Git or source code based development. You have build phases, releases. In OT programming of PLCs, you often more like program a switch, like a physical switch where you have electricity flowing because of a switch, and they are thinking different. You have one machine, what get deployed. You have attached to it manufacturers who deploy software to it to manage only this machine, but nobody cared about others. And now we need to bring them together, and I think containers are very well suited for this because they have simple interfaces, what mostly are ports and volumes for data, and they can wrap it and use containers to ship and scale more.
What would you say, and going back to Johannes, as you mentioned that they are starting to work together, and you talk to them, and what was the most unexpected thing that you faced when you saw like IT and OT working together?
I would say for me personally, the most unexpected, so I'm from IT, was, for example, like version control, that they still updated really with a manual USB stick and go there, or there is not even any version control for the PLC. So this is what I say. And also the breadth of old proprietary stack on the OT world. It's like based on all the different manufacturers have their own protocols. And this is now also with the push to be together with IT. It's like new protocols being developed or standardized to harmonize this. One example would then be OPC-UA as kind of the interface between the OT world and the IT world. And this will then also enable to have this convergence between IT and OT.
Was there any positive thing that you found when you started working together with OT?
This positive thing is, of course, what I see is they all also want to change. They see the possibilities, they want to develop. I mean, it's like a whole topic. It's like not just OT, IT conversion, it's like the topic of digital transformation. Yeah? Like also, maybe one term I often heard that is not so nice is then some people used to say there's factory workers and there's knowledge workers, like in offices, but that's not true. Yeah? They all will use knowledge, they will use even more knowledge that can be generated by intelligent services that are then maybe deployed in containers and so on. And every single person like working on the shop floor will grow and will also be enabled by this. So I see this is also something you have to put in like as a vision for everyone. So this is not just something, oh, the IT, they want to get all the data, make some fancy dashboard for management. No, for each and everyone that is working there, they also need to be enabled. And also their job can be made easier. Yeah? Maybe they have some tedious task that always needs to be done that we can get rid of.
Alfred, when you look at it from your perspective, you started talking to the OT folks and like helping them. So what was the most unexpected thing that came to your story?
Yeah. The most unexpected thing was we were on the shop floor and I saw machines, really big machines, were fully automated. The things get in on one side, and on the other side gets a new product out. And all of the thing is fully automated. And then the software, the thing is controlling, they do manually. So that was wondering me a little bit. But the thing is, they are very open-minded. So they like automation. And if we had a suggestion what to automate, they are, yeah, we do it.
Yeah, that's what you hope to see, of course. And Toby, you wanted to add something to Johannes?
Yeah, I have one story because of my friend. He's working like as a programmer on the machines, and he said like he was proud to write some bat files for deploying, copying files from the file server to the next machine, and he was like scared because he needs to take care about Windows updates. He needs to take care about that he have a store to store his artifacts in his code. And we're talking about what is possible here. It would be great, and I can finally concentrate on writing programs again and not doing some weird things what I don't have any clue and going to Sundays to make a Windows update. So this was one of the funniest things I experienced where I was like, okay, you do the updates, you study electronics, not IT, so.
Yeah, we also had one customer where they have electricians do updates in the factory line. This is weird. Talking about scaling, because apparently you can't scale electricians because people are hard to scale in person because we have not invented cloning yet. We have challenges. We have challenges for scaling in OT as well. I mean, a new factory, factories are getting bigger, factories are getting more and more optimized. What would you say is the key challenge in the IT and OT infrastructure when you look at it in factories? So where would you see the biggest challenges in where maybe IT and OT face the same challenge? Toby.
So I think in the OT world now we see more and more applications needs to get run, more and more data get collected, analyzed and optimized. I think we faced the same thing in the IT 15 years ago or something like that, where we started with VMs and doing ETL, data loading and reporting and so on. And then we saw, oh, now we have more apps, but we have the same size of IT department. So one person maybe 15 years ago managed 10 applications. Now he needs to manage 100 or 1,000 applications. And the same will happen to the OT as well. If we're thinking about AI technology will come into the picture, a lot of more complexity needs to get managed from the same amount of people. And the only thing, as you mentioned, scaling of people is mostly hard and expensive, as they need to scale over automation. So that's my guess.
Yeah, touching the AI topic, Johannes, it's basically part of what you do in your daily base. So you talk, I guess, to a lot of customers that say like, hey, I want to run AI workload, also factory near or shop floor near. How would you see the scaling topic and what is next to come?
Yeah, exactly. Like a typical use case is like some visual quality inspection. Do you want to deploy this on the lines for the manufacturing? And then you can also have a different size of the models that you want to run or like different compute. And for example, an easy use case we also have in our showroom or demonstrator in Kaiserslautern is then you use some NVIDIA Jetson boards already. They provide some GPU, but then also a challenge will be to deciding in the future, when do I just want to use like a local model that's running on the edge? Or when do I want to also send it to the cloud? When do I want to do the retraining, the batching? And to get like somehow a real strategy built around that, also maybe with some MLOps pipelines built around this, I think this is one of the big challenge to scale like this AI workload, and also keeping in mind at some point how to do this in a sustainable way also, yeah, not just using all the compute you have, but to thinking really, do I need this big one? Do I just need the small one? And to track this also.
Yeah, and I guess also energy is a limiting factor because you need power to run this, and you already touched on the basically on the topic that you need to decide what you need to run, and Toby, you touched on the topic that applications are running. You have more and more applications. So Alfred, you do a lot of application development for shop floor and stuff like this. So what is the challenge more from an application side to the whole scaling factor?
Yeah, in the past, the scaling side was the single person who does the update. And now we are doing this with Kubernetes and with continuous deployments. So the scaling is easy. So it's done automatically. So if the container needs more load, yeah, then if it's implemented stateless, then another container is started with vertical pod autoscaler, for example. And it's also easy to roll out into the different locations because many concerns are acting globally, and you need to roll out the same applications on different locations, and this can all be done with the same deployment, and only some small parameters are different, and so it's how we can scale now.
Maybe to add on here, like the small parameters he's also talking about, in the last Hannover Fair, there was also the new initiative called Margo launched, and they also work on this interoperability for deployment for industrial operations. And this exactly means there's maybe also a lot of different already existing platforms where you have maybe a marketplace where the vendors then offer their solutions. They may be containerized, but they maybe only work for this specific platform. You could not just use it in your own Kubernetes directly. But when you will be able to standardize, I think they're working on some YAML config files also on this. This would also give a lot more freedom to then orchestrate the applications, and you're not tied or have this vendor lock into some specific platforms that maybe those vendors choose to deploy their applications.
Yeah, this was also basically a good handover to the next topic that we want to touch, which is basically what are the major technologies and patterns that we currently have in the whole sector. And Toby, what is the thing that you see there and that basically already are in place that tackling future problems?
I think containers getting more and more common in general to use it and have the option, hey, I can run it easily on my laptop, I can run it easily in the data center or on the edge device. A lot of solutions currently based on pure Docker, but there also the problem is if you have standalone Docker hosts, you need to manage them, you need to go there somewhere and automate that, and then I think in the future, they will think about, hey, can I have an API around that? And I think that's the most benefit what Kubernetes can give them is I have a standardized API what works basically the same way in the cloud and on premise. And I think also from the operation, it makes them the life easier because therefore I can use existing operation teams from IT to operate also stuff what they don't understand because they don't need to know what is inside of the containers. They can concentrate and like distribute the load where it is needed and the place where it should be, and also replaceable. I mean, someone said we have a use case if someone drive against the machine with the forklift, how we can rebuild. So with Kubernetes, I think you can bring up the infrastructure and bring the application back much faster as you can do it in traditional setup via USB stick or traditional automation.
Yeah, Alfred, do you have any patterns that you say that are already in place that gets used a lot in those environments? I know that you do a lot with Kafka.
Yeah, the first thing was also in the OT, they had a lot of knowledge about communication, for example, between services, but they didn't spend too much on how they communicate. So most of the communication was RESTful with state and synchron. And scaling synchronous services is a little bit tricky. So the first thing we told them, yeah, you need some message queues. And for example, we implemented it with Kafka, and in our platform, we implemented in a very easy way that the domains, the OT developers, can write an application which is communicating with Kafka, for example. Also, we shifted them to GitOps, because in the time before, they had the memory sticks, or they had, for example, on the firewalls, they have many firewalls, they had ClickOps. And nobody, there was something misconfigured, and nobody knew in the past, oh, who was it, why was it done, but it's not working anymore. And then they clicked opt it back somehow. And we introduced GitOps to them. So all the things they are right for the Kubernetes cluster are artifacts which are deployed, for example, with Argo CD. And the state, how it is deployed, is written as code in the repository. And every time if something crashes, okay, let's make it new. Take the repository, go back to the stack. Then it works again.
Yeah, I can remember things where you have Excel sheets with firewall rules, and you apply them then to new data centers. This is fun, especially when you debug things there. Which brings us to the next topic, and we already touched it in the talk in the morning. How I like security departments, and security is of course a big topic also for IT and OT. What would you see as the main challenges in a manufacturing environment for the security part, Johannes, where you need to interact with people?
With people. I think one of the main challenges, of course, is like the network needs to be secured. There's also a lot of activities around network isolation. It used to be like that. I even know a lot of machines, they didn't have any connection to the network because they were not designed to have it or to need it back in the days. But now you want to do the fancy new stuff, you want to have a connection, then you also need to secure it somehow. And I would say this is one of the main challenges from this side. But also from the human perspective, once there's a lot of new services that are maybe available in the office net, it will not be feasible for all of them. Like maybe before in the days, you just know your password and username for one little PC. But now you're in the network, you will have access to all the services. There must be some kind of single sign-on authenticity. And one of the solutions can be like also to use like a badge card they have, also to give it the workers, so they can authenticate at the terminals on the shop floor and so on. But also to validate all of this is still a big step to go.
Yeah, and we always have the infamous layer 7. That is the main problem of everything, right? So, Alfred, from your side, I mean, especially, Johannes touched it a little bit, the authentication between services is also a big topic, I guess, from a security point, right?
Yeah, it's a big topic. So what I also saw was, yeah, we have perimeter security, so we only have secure devices, and our network can only be connected devices that we know, so we don't need any security because we can only have devices which we know. So, but everybody can find a way to get some data out of this network by, you get it from the LAN for local area network cable, and you can, about the magnetic field, you can get out data, and they even don't see it. So this is not safe anymore. And for that we have, in the Kubernetes world, we have a solution, so the so-called service meshes. So you can get very easy MTLS everywhere, and then you can only devices with valid certificates can talk with each other, and you have authentication and authorization. And this has to be done everywhere because everything is insecure today. So the past thing, we have a secure network because it's behind firewalls. It's not there anymore.
But we all love our firewalls and the rules inside of them. And basically, you touched it a little bit. Kubernetes and container networks bring a different layer to security and a different approach to security, and also new challenges. How, Toby, would you say that we solve this in a cloud-native world, or what's the approach there?
I mean, solving, I would not say we solved it all. So I think we are under starting there, because everything what is IT, OT related in with containers is, for me, just in the starting phase. We're getting better. I think that edge devices, getting maybe also a small Kubernetes worker, get managed over the same technologies, so I can span overlay networks across it and apply the same technologies. Like most of you, I heard, use Kubernetes, so you know maybe also network policies or some kind of policy engines who can scan what is running. And I think if you bring this technology also to nearer to the manufacturing machine, you're getting this more or less adapted from the IT, where they have already multiple years of pain after, and you can use this benefit. But still, you need to remember that people come from another area. So normally it was common to have IP-based firewalls, so one node have one IP. Now we are a dynamic infrastructure. We have maybe 10 nodes, maybe 5 nodes. Maybe all the nodes have tomorrow other IPs, so this will not work anymore. And if you talk then and say, hey, can we open the side range? Then you have a funny discussion. And that needs to shift. So we need also to bring in the beginning, that's what my suggestion in the beginning, really from each department, the knowledge holder together, say, hey, what is new, what is changed, what we can apply, and how we can apply to get also from security in the beginning adaptants, so that they are included in the process, because then they more likely understand why things needed. If you do it in the end, it's often can block you.
No. Security never blocks any process in any company at all. Which brings us to the outlook, more or less. So it's like, we talked about what is the current state, where we're moving, where we have already moved, what is changing. What would you say are the emerging technology trends? And Johannes, you already started putting a little bit thought into this, especially with the Hannover Messe. What do you see as the emerging trends in the whole market?
Yeah, this maybe has also to do that I work at a research institute, so it's kind of our job to look in the future. And one trend would be so-called like edge cloud continuum, to really build this up for manufacturing, that you can seamlessly shift workloads also between edge and cloud. And there you also have to take into consideration maybe that the scheduling should not only be based on like the compute power available on those nodes, but you can also maybe have to take into account like where is this node then located in the end? What is the latency maybe to the shop floor? Do you have special requirements for that? And also to be able to schedule it based on, like I already mentioned, like energy or carbon footprint emissions. So this could be one of the big topics I would see for the future.
Would you also see that when you say carbon footprint, it's the optimizing the usage of the resources, so that you basically share resources between tasks?
Yes, exactly. This is like, for example, we also talked to some of rather big manufacturer. They told us for every manufacturing line, currently they have like the worst case compute power available at this line. for example, when it needs to boot up and has to do a lot of checking different stuff, has to run a lot of algorithm to set it up. But once it's running, you don't need all of that maybe anymore. Yeah? So currently, every line is a bit over-equipped. And once you would be able to share the resources, like in the whole plant, or maybe even further between those different lines, then you could free up some resources. You could be more sustainable also. But it's, of course, it's a hard cut into how those manufacturing lines are run at the moment. But it's the future, yeah.
And Alfred, what do you see from your point of view as an emerging trend, or where the direction is currently developing to?
Yeah, a little bit also the shift from on-premise only things to the cloud, and also communicating, because many companies have many clusters. They don't have only one cluster, so they have clusters on different locations, and there, besides some IP problems that you can get, but you can create a network mesh over all the Kubernetes cluster, so they can communicate with MTLS directly together. This is a thing. And also the scale to zero, or when the services, currently we have some things that many services have the lack of the storage of state in the container, which is very bad, because when the container goes away, the state is away. So if they have implemented this in a right cloud-ready condition with maybe a Redis in the background, then scale to zero would be possible, because then it's no problem. You can, if the container has no load, you can stop it. When enough containers are stopped, Kubernetes can scale down the nodes automatically, and if the load is needed, then you scale up. So this will give us energy savings, but we have to prepare the services to be able to do that.
Yeah, this is also a big challenge, especially we face always issues with application layer, right? Because companies buy applications and they are not cloud native yet, and we still need to deal with them. I mean, there are ways around this, but Toby, what do you see for the future in IT, OT?
I think that I hope, or that's my motivation, to open for the OT the marketplace like of the normal IT. So we have in the normal IT we have quite a big open source ecosystem. If you just take the CNCF landscape as one example, what you have tools around what you can consume easily, where you're getting also good kind of at least community support, or have a lot of vendors, and you can easily bring it in. So I think it will get more to, hey, I don't need to be an expert to run a database, but I can consume a database service, maybe from the platform or from a managed service provider, however, and can plug that into my cloud native framework. As I know, we talked about Dapper, for example, get adopted widely. Such of things are coming from the IT and helping the OT to implement kind of their own OT scoped platform. And in normal IT, we're talking a lot about platform engineering. And I think the same will happen with the OT as well, that they get the best of breed platform where they can consume frameworks, other parts of the already solved problems more easily as it is not right now.
And following up to this, do you think, and this is basically for all three of you, and whoever's first goes first, do you think that there will be more or less, not a merge, but a closer cooperation between IT and OT in the future, because they eventually maybe will share the stack?
I think it will merge definitely. Like also, if we look at some simple job like car mechanics in the in the back some years ago, they maybe also did not know need to know so much about electronics and so on, and then it's merged. They learn more about it. So I think in general it will merge.
I would say they need to, because a lot of people talk about Industry 4.0. I don't think we are there really in the most companies, and yeah. Also, kind of industry PCs. Often they are standalone systems. They will get into more managed systems. So you cannot update 10,000 industry PCs anymore. So you need to talk to each other. And I think, and I hope that the bridge, also with this event, we can make close a little bit and come close together. And if I take a look in some fairs, I was visiting SPS fair. A lot of more IT companies coming into space. And I think the communication is starting, but early phase, I would still say.
Yeah, the communication between OT and IT is starting. And we on our platform, we have, since half a year, already a service from the Office network now in the platform. So they are merging together, the OT and the Office. And the big thing is that the OT people, or the OTs, they can learn from the mistakes the IT has done in the last 15 years and don't do the same mistakes again. So we can get a really amazing platform in the future.
Yeah, I think this is a good closing remark. And basically, there's now a job for you, as you heard. Merge IT and OT. Go, now. The goal is next year. Anyway, we want to open up for some questions from the audience. So if any one of you has some question, please just raise your hand and I will jump to you. Otherwise, I will come up with silly questions and annoy them, and you don't want this.
Yeah, hi. I'm not from the field, so I'm not an expert at all. I want to ask, is this only a problem of Germany or Europe that we have this glitch between IT and OT? Because from my naive thinking, I would have thought that we are already much further. And now that I know that we are not, I would think that at least the Americans and the Chinese and maybe the Indians or whoever is already much ahead of us. What is the comparison to other countries or continents?
So from my experience, I cannot judge, to be honest. But if I see the fairs like Hannover Messe or SPS, where there was a big announcement, now we're supporting Linux and now we're supporting containers, was a big thing for global companies in the PLC world, I would expect it's not much difference. Maybe they are working more together, could be, I don't know, but just from the product portfolio, what I saw there, like containers was the new hype there, so this was the pretty new thing. So
this Margo initiative I mentioned, this is a global one, so there's also PLC manufacturers from America, but maybe one could make the point that Europe does have a bias for making the standards first and building up those standards or regulations. Like we all know about the AI regulations, you cannot get the newest iPhone AI in EU, so there could be a slight bias towards that, and that's why it maybe could seem like the others are proceeding a bit faster, but I think we are doing still a good job. Also the platform Industry 4.0, they are also working together internationally, providing like the standards they build up on. They have close ties to Japan, to Korea, also to the US. So in the US they have this, it's called SESME, they also work on this. So I would say it maybe can feel like that because we always feel like that the EU does a lot of regulation and so on. But in the end, I don't think they are far ahead. No, I think.
I can also add to this. So I know of at least one manufacturing company in the US that builds cars and one factory that building producing chemicals in APAC and in Northern Europe. And their plan is to introduce Kubernetes until 2035. So no, it's not a European problem, but it always looks bad, but it's not that bad as we think. Any other questions?
or also experience. So you can also share your experiences.
Yeah, it's not experience, it's a rather question. What about big fishes like Siemens? So we are speaking about PLC updates, that's a pain point. A lot of them coming from big fish, and we have also plant control system. It's even more complicated. What's happening something there, or if you're bound to the vendor, then you have no choice.
Yeah, so interestingly, Siemens has its own edge platform, what in the end using Kubernetes with an edge marketplace where you can consume containerized apps, but it's not as open as you would use your own stack. So say using the technology, but try to it's would I say to have their vendor lock around it. And there's a Siemens Edge marketplace, for example, where you easily can consume an AI app for your PLC and so on. Nicely integrated, nice product. But everyone must decide if they want to go this route again, or often we hear, okay, we have Siemens PLC, we have Huawei maybe, and for stuff like Mitsubishi controls, and they want to use cloud native more like, okay, now we have the next chance to build an abstraction layer before, and then consuming the vendor stuff. But I think especially Siemens, and now you can Google it, Siemens Edge platform, using also the same technologies.
And you also can find a lot of, as Toby mentioned already, there are a lot of CNCF projects that also already going into the edge direction and manufacturing direction. And they are not that obvious, but they exist. So there are a lot of projects even in this area.
Yeah, maybe to add on to that, I think maybe it's also a question what you say, build versus buy in general. There are those platforms available from the big technology companies, but in the end it also has to be a push from the manufacturing companies, or they also have to request for those services that then maybe run there to be open. For example, also with the OPC UA, the standard, it also just works because all the companies then ask, hey, I want to have it, please build it into there. Yeah? So this is like, and I think in general what Toby said, like going more towards open source, going to open interoperability, this will go forward, and as far as I see, also Siemens will go forward with this, but they just also, of course, sell their product, yeah.
Any other questions?
You mentioned, I think Johannes, you were mentioning this like future of like cloud edge continuum, but like what I'm seeing most still currently is OT and IT need to be super separated. Nothing can get into OT. OT is able to like maybe have single connections out, but nothing else. Like, is that changing, or are you actually talking to security and convincing them to change that? Because I've not seen them change that. Like, we need to change technology to accommodate for it, but
yeah. Thanks for the question. Yeah, I think this has to do with the organizations, how they grow also. And once you would make this change really that IT is like production critical, like they would have to be responsible also to keep it up 24/7. Yeah? If you just read out some data, it's okay, nothing happens. But once you really go in there, you host it, you build it, then also all of a sudden IT is responsible for something that before that only OT was responsible. Yeah? And then the need from the company or the OT world to have more flexibility, more modularity has to be high enough to then also dedicate the resources to a team, be it IT or OT or a mix of them, to then be able to fulfill those uptime or SLA requirements. Yeah, but once those use cases become more and more, and maybe they are there, then this has to be a decision. Yeah. But right now, of course, it's a bit like, oh, we are a bit scared to go so deep into there because, yeah, it's a tricky thing.
And I think the networks and so on can still be separated and will be. That you have dedicated OT networks, but maybe you have a management unit inside of this network. Former days was industry PC, maybe then some small VMware, vSphere, where they host own VMs, or now they will get a Kubernetes clusters maybe. So I think that's from network perspective, maybe not too much will change, but at least it will get more flexible.
Yeah, maybe just another trend also. There are also trends to even virtualize the PLCs, and then you would not even need any devices directly there. You would just put everything in the server room. It is possible, so there's research on this, but then also you would maybe need some special time-sensitive networks for some applications. But this is in the end, yeah, it is a trade-off you need to make.
So what I know from Shure, because another friend from me working there, they tried to like reduce the number of industry PCs and not going to VMs, so going directly to containers. So this is something what will happen, because also from the cost perspective, 10,000 decentral PCs is hard to manage, or I have a small rack in per production line where I can place them. So I think the adoption of the, yeah, as you said, the technology, what we learned already, and doing not the same mistakes would be the best.
And I think also the what Alfred mentioned, the application authentication, that everything, we don't trust anything. Everything needs to do a handshake to each other, is also a benefit to the whole system, because everyone is benefiting from a higher security standard on this point. Any other question? We have time for one more question. Now is your chance. Otherwise, I will ask the AI question, and you know everyone don't want to hear the AI question.
No, I just wanted to know, like, you mentioned Siemens, but Germany has a lot of medium-sized industries and companies. How cost-effective is this transition for them?
One of the companies, mid-sized companies, they wanted to come here, but he got sick. So otherwise, he was speaking here. He wanted. They were already moving also to Kubernetes, and even interesting is they creating software what delivers additional value to the machines, like management software or planning software or something like that. In former days, they shipped it by VMs. Now they ship it as Helm charts. And now they see, oh, maybe we have a problem that they don't have Kubernetes there on some production place. And but the trend is going there, that they think, hey, I want to using also the same advantages of these technologies for my applications. I deliver additional to the machines. So, and that's also not a big scale company like Siemens. It's more like a mid-sized company, as it's typical in the machine building industry. So, yeah. Maybe you see more different companies.
I think the limiting factor is like the human resources to build or manage those platforms. It's hard for a medium-sized manufacturer to have this experience. And I think they are just the platforms or the tools need to be good enough so that you will be able to use it. Yeah.
And with this, I would say that's a good ending. Thanks everyone. Thanks for the questions from the audience. Thanks to all three of you for taking the panel.
Thanks for the moderation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with this, the next session.